Hello and welcome. I'm Helena Phoenix and you're listening to TIPTOE Radio. I'll be your host for the next hour and a half or so. Let's see. So this isn't actually radio per se. I'm not broadcasting on a network. This is just a podcast that I'll be doing regularly and posting on YouTube. And if you've heard my voice before, it's a number of reasons. Either you know me, or you've heard me on the radio before. I was on Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, and Wolf Spirit Radio for about 3 years, which is American radio. Now, I'm broadcasting from my Melbourne studio, but I've liaised with most people that I've spoken to on the radio were Americans, so I have had the opportunity to have a lot of insight about things that are going on culturally in different parts of the world. So I'm pretty proud of that. And I've got to ask myself, why am I doing this again? It's been a couple of years actually since I've broadcasted live. I used to just be live on the radio. And all my shows, I'm doing this. This is why I'm doing this. I'm also a musician, so this is going to be posted on my YouTube channel. I've got some of my music on there. I play guitar and do that sort of thing. And actually a lot of electronic music. I can do quite a few genres of music. I just love playing with sound. And I actually started doing some video blogging. And, I'm actually a lot more comfortable just talking and not being self-conscious about talking into a camera, which I will do every now and again. But as far as quantity of material, I'd rather just do via voice medium. Now, so I posted a video of me talking, see the video of me talking about something I wanted to start called the True Will Movement. Now, before I sort of segue into why I called it the True Will Movement, is my show that I used to have on the radio was called Time to Shine. Now, I was fortunate enough to be able to have a radio show on a really big radio station where I wasn't censored. I could actually bring anything or anyone to the table that I wanted to, any guest, any topic. I was not censored at all. And you can just imagine what an experience. Well, for me, it was a great experience to have that kind of freedom. And freedom of speech, that's another topic we might get on to. It can be a little bit a fine line at times. But I did have that freedom of speech. So I was very grateful to have that experience. So now I've got the opportunity, just like anyone in the world, absolutely all of us got the opportunity to do this kind of work. If you've got something to say, you can just make a podcast and put it up. The idea of wanting to do this now, podcast as opposed to just talking into a video and speaking, which is great as well. It's an awesome medium and there's some people doing it and it's fantastic. But I want to have guests on again, and I've had the opportunity to meet some extraordinary people in my journeys, my radio journeys, and have them on my show. So I thought, I'll start these podcasts and get great guests. And then I find a whole bunch of synchronicities start to happen. I have met some really extraordinary people that are actually on YouTube, big YouTubers as well, that have really interesting things to say. And as far as what I'll be talking about, I'll have guests that I don't necessarily agree with. I certainly won't have any guests on there that I vehemently disagree with, like someone who's just crazy with their ideas or something, just mental. Who knows, maybe I will, maybe I won't. But I just want to have guests on, and sometimes I might even be monologuing if I've really got something to say and I need to say it. I'll post it. I'll probably be posting some of my music in between these podcasts as well, so you can get to know what I'm doing. Now, I'm not selling anything. There's no money involved. Not to say, it's funny because I'm putting a caveat in for everything I say, because I know whatever I do and whatever everyone does, they're up for criticism. So what seems like I'm justifying is like just a caveat to minimize drama. In other words, if people are making money off podcasts or whatever they're doing on the internet, good on them. This isn't about any exchange of fiat notes or bitcoins or anything. This is just me shooting the breeze, having guests on, talking about really interesting topics, hopefully also provoking thought and just having a bit of fun and realizing that creativity and being creative is just a really great way to live as well. We don't really need to be relying on other people for our entertainment. We can actually be part of the creative process, every single one of us. So I do have an underlining message. There is a message in my work, obviously. Whatever it is you do with your life is of no consequence to me unless I'm living with you, of course. So I don't really want to change your mind. I'm just here to bring some comfort, perhaps. This is another reason why I got the idea to do the podcast, because I do a lot of driving, and the reason why I do a lot of driving, because I live in an area, it's a gorgeous area in Melbourne, but to get to the city or to get to a friend's house or to get to work, it's usually at least a half an hour, 45-minute drive. And I like to be listening to something, whether it's drum and bass. I'm a big drum and bass fan. I have drum and bass in my car, listening in my car, or I like to listen to a podcast on YouTube generally. YouTube is just so easily accessible, and there's certain people that I really love to listen to, so I'll find their latest YouTube video, and there's no visuals, it's just a podcast, and I love to listen to that while I'm driving. So I thought, how about I stop being such a consumer and add to it and start creating podcasts, and perhaps you can listen to while you're driving as well. So again, so what are these shows going to be about? What am I about? What am I doing? Well, I kind of want to prove that our thoughts and our actions do create our reality. You hear this a lot. 10 years ago it sounded a little bit airy-fairy, but these days I think people are starting to pick up on it and realizing there could be something to that. There is science that also is backing that up. Unfortunately, it's kind of hard to figure that out if you're heavily programmed, and I hate to use the word brainwashed, but it really truly is brainwashing. If you're subject to one message over and over and over again, it's highly likely that you're going to internalize, and that's going to be your narrative in your mind. And it's kind of how a lot of things work, and I'm going to be doing shows on that as well. Anything for you to get your own sovereignty back and your own power, personal power. Again, most of my shows are really related to personal power, not usurping, not stealing, stepping on heads, or it's really about just your personal power. I'm still learning. I've got to say I figured out a lot of stuff as well along the way, but I'll be the first one to put my hand up and say there's a lot I don't know. But what I'm doing is I'm having a good time along the way. And we talk about this positivity thing, and some people think it's absolute bullshit to be positive all the time, whatever. For me personally, getting up in the morning, deciding I'm going to be happy and smile and enjoy my day and enjoy the moment of where I am, and I'm actually in control of everything, actually, not of other people, just of my situation at that moment, is really powerful, and I've practiced over the years to get to that point, because I'm like many people. I've had depression in the past. I was very confused about everything. I was really not impressed with life, like a lot of us aren't. And I've actually figured out another way that it really does work. It takes practice. It's like learning a guitar. You don't just pick up a guitar and know how to play guitar. You don't just, you got to practice these things, and thoughts are really no different. I've got some great literature as well. I like to own books that educate me, not just sort of try to brainwash me that one God is best or another God. I like factual information, and I really like to learn a lot about how the brain works and how, if you're practicing a thought a lot, like practicing depression. Now, I don't think you have depression. I think you do depression. People do depression. You don't have it, you do it because you're practicing that thought every day. And there's a lot of literature that supports that. But really, if someone's going to pass you here's the lollipop to your life, you're going to have a great life lollipop, here you go. It doesn't work like that. We're here, we're challenged. and we've got to work through the fog to figure out what's ultimately what it is. What is it? Well, true will. This is where true will comes in. The term true will is what is it that you truly want? What is your true will? Now, free will is another meaning, and we can get into that. But true will, what do you truly want? Minus all the fog. And it's another point of discussion that I want to get into about what is it that you truly want, and almost remind you of that. So I'm not just completely an altruistic person. I'm not just doing this because I want to help you. I'm doing this because I want to help me. Let's get real. And if it helps you, then that's great too. It's a win-win situation, which is what I think life should be about. And I tend to be positive a lot of the time. If I have a shit day, I'll be real about it. I've had a shit day, but shit days don't happen to me. This is where it gets really tricky. It really depends on your perspective and how you're looking at things. Another very good point of discussion. So, I'm wondering if I've actually got a producer with me today, and I'm going to introduce him in a moment. So he was gracious enough to let me do this introduction. I've called the show TIPTOE Radio with Helena Phoenix. TIPTOE, I use the term tiptoe. It's kind of the opposite of tiptoe, because on my show, we don't need to tiptoe around subjects. So it's kind of a play on words. It's the opposite. So I'm using TIPTOE Radio for now because I kind of like the sound of it, the ring of it, but that's subject to change. Everything's subject to change. So I'm just going to use TIPTOE Radio with Helena Phoenix for now and see if it sticks. I wonder if there's anything else I need to get into. With my music as a solo artist, I do music, like I said. I'm a guitar teacher as well. I'm not like a prolific guitarist or anything like that. I love guitar, and I play guitar, and I have been playing guitar for a long time. And then once I learnt to sing while I'm playing guitar, that was a whole other phenomenal step. And it feels really good to be able to sing and play guitar. But I've also written on electronica music. I've tried to be in bands. I love being in bands, actually. But my experience being in bands has always been, and this is in the past, this is the old me. I'm pretty sure if I was in a band now, it'd be different. The old me used to have really bad experiences in bands. But was it the band or was it me? I think it was me. Somehow, like, for instance, I was in a band, they were called Sunlock, and they were kind of like, the music they wrote was like sort of Chili Peppers, and there's Soundgarden. It was like this mishmash of Chili Peppers and Soundgarden. I loved the music they wrote. And what they needed was a vocalist. And they needed a vocalist also that was going to write the lyrics, which they thought that it wasn't going to happen until they met me. So they gave me 3 songs to go home with. Go take these, little girl, and write some lyrics to these songs. And they were joking about it, like as if. 3 days later, I took those 3 songs back with melodies, vocals, lyrics, and everything. So they're kind of sitting there listening to it with glazed look in their eyes, listening to it. And they were very impressed, and they really liked it. What happened was the guitarist ended up having a big crush on me and started stalking me. Now, I've had two guitarists in my past. One was a friend of mine since I was 12 that was stalking me. So I've had just strange experiences being in bands. Again, if I was in a band now, I'd know how to use discernment and divert those kinds of experiences. I know for a fact that I could do that now. I couldn't back then. So I could sit here and say I was a victim of all these stupid circumstances in the past, but I wasn't until I learned as well how we can change. And you realise that all your victimised scenarios in life where you feel like you're the victim is actually part of your creation. And it's really hard for people to get that. So I'd rather put myself there to say, look, I've done that. And there's no shame in my game. And I'll be the first one to put my hand up to say, I was one of those people. it's the only way to really get past that false ego, because it's the false ego that's tricking you into a lot of your victim bullshit. Well, let me just put that out there, which is another topic of discussion. But just to tie this up before I bring in my guest and my producer, I just want to say that the idea of this is to bring different voices on, and different guests and different topics and different discussions. And you don't have to be an author or an entertainer or anything like that to be on my show, which I'll probably be having people like that, probably have comedians, having all kinds of guests on my show. But I want to welcome ordinary people with extraordinary stories. I'd love to interview them as well and do podcasts with them and shoot the breeze, and I'll probably learn something new. Because like my next guest that I'm bringing on, and a very dear friend of mine and my producer, he always says we should be learning something new every day. And I don't like the word should, but I'll say with this particular thing, we should be learning something new every day. That's what makes life interesting. And I literally do not go a day where I don't learn something new, because my antennas are up and I want to learn. I want to integrate. I want as much knowledge as I can get, so I can sift through it and take what I need, like a good sinker test. I just take what I need. But without any further ado, I'm going to bring in my producer and my guest. And are you there? Are you there? Why not?
Yes, I'm here. And it's interesting, like, you could say could instead of should, if that's what you'd like. You could do anything that you want and something new every day. But it's up to you if you see it or if you notice it, or if you want to find something new every day.
Correct. Now, Tony, so you're known as Tony and Why Not, which is Tony backwards, which is, if you see it back to back with the name Tony and then Why Not, you realize it's backwards. But if the words aren't next to each other, you don't realize it's a clever play on words and it's backwards. But Tony, thanks for being my producer, and you've got a show as well. You do your own radio show. What do you do?
Yeah, luckily I found Revolution Radio, and it was so easy to get to be a host. So I do a show called Why Not Do What You Can. And it's pretty much whatever comes to me at that moment that I'm doing it. I do try and have guests and some special events at times, but it's usually whatever that flows, especially between people that come on and stuff. So.
Well, I put out the word, just like I was just saying in the intro before, that because I'm not doing radio anymore by choice, I can't have a regular show because of my life at the moment. I'm so busy, so I can't have a regular schedule. And I thought this is a good way where I can really just all the rules on my own. Not that there were many rules at Rev Radio, I've got to say. That was fantastic. But I put out the word just last night that I was going to do these podcasts, and I put the word out on Facebook, and I got a really great response. And then I shared it with you, and you gave me really great responses to thinking it was a good idea. And so what do you think about having just different guests on and just shooting the breeze and sharing knowledge? What do you think of that idea?
Well, for one, I think in your situation, and everyone has different situations, there's always a way, and this is kind of a solution to that, because when you have your own show, you have to be on a schedule, and it makes it a little more complicated, So my show is on Sunday nights 10 to 12. I forgot to say that on Rev Radio.
Eastern Standard Time?
Yes, Eastern Standard Time. And I also do the Roundtable, Why Not Roundtable. It's why not call in, and that's on midnight, Tuesday night till 2 a.m. Wednesday morning.
We'll let the listeners know if they don't know what a roundtable is. In fact, anyone around the world can call one of these roundtables. So at Rev Radio, Revolution Radio, they've got they have a host for a roundtable, and I've hosted many of these roundtables. I used to do sometimes 8-hour marathons, and the lines would be open and people would call in. sometimes what happens, and I know they've got a lot of listeners, it's the same people calling in all the time because people just want to listen, which is interesting. Sometimes people don't want to talk, they do want to just listen. But if anyone ever wants to call in a roundtable, you can just go check out the schedule at freedomslips.com and call in a roundtable. But if you also want to get your voice on and be interviewed, just shoot me up an email. I'm at timetoshineradio@gmail.com. I haven't changed it to TIPTOE Radio yet. I don't know if I will. I'll just use the old email. So it's time to shine, TIMETOSHINE @gmail.com if you want to be a guest on my show. So this is just at the inception. Putting a podcast on YouTube of someone that's relatively unknown. I had a listenership back when I was doing radio. In fact, I even made number 5. My show made number 5 on TalkStream Live out of 10,000 radio stations. I couldn't believe it. Like, what the hell? How did my show make number 5? But they're my bragging rights at the moment. But yeah, it's like, basically you don't have to be anyone to be doing something like this. You want to be a bit good at it. You don't want to be not good at it. But we'll see how this goes.
These days people are just looking for something new. And really what's new is people trying to figure out what's next, you know. And it's not about what's in the past, it's about something new that you can see a reason to live for, you know. So I think it's easy to see, you know, a lot of people can do what you're doing right now. And that, you know, like this is a change of the way we do things. Like those roundtables, you know, people are calling in from around the world and we can come together and find a solution, you know, like voice our opinions on how it feels to be human or whatever, you know.
Yeah. Because talking is a modality of learning. Reading's a modality of learning. Experience is another modality of learning. So this is still a great way for people to, I'm not just talking about this podcast, I'm just sort of talking about when you go and listen to someone who's really active in the awakening, shall I say. There's some really interesting people out there talking at the moment. Mark Passio is one of them. I don't agree with everything he says, but he's an extraordinary speaker. To be walking this earth actually while he's here, there's some extraordinary people at the moment on earth at this time, are really extraordinary people. But this is a hard one for people to hear, but we idolize celebrities so much and we tend to forget our own potential or our own beauty or our own abilities. And that's something that really weirds me out, this celebrity culture and how people really, God, they deify these celebrities. And although, again, the contrast of living in a time where it's so extraordinary, you've got these great people coming out trying to awaken and come to the table with a lot of knowledge, and then you've got the other side where you've got these people that are just entertaining you that you're deifying. It's just, we live in the best time, but if you're not able to discern and understand what's going on, it's very, very confusing. Wouldn't you agree, Tony, how confusing it must be for people at this time?
Yeah, but it's interesting because we're being confused purposely in a way. You know, like instead of us realizing that we can all do what we want, we're thinking that only certain people can do things. You know, so it's really like somebody's confused us. You know, like we're all capable of way more than we allow ourselves to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose that's where I'm coming from with what I do. Whatever I've tapped into myself, it's something I've found. But are people inclined to do that, or are people inclined to just be lazy? People tend to be inclined to be lazy.
I don't believe in lazy. I hear it all the time, and what I think is that if you had better, you would do better, you know? And what it is you get tired of fighting, and you end up like taking it easy more because you just can't you can't see the way out. Like if people saw like a simple solution to get where they wanted to go, they would easily go for that, you know, but it's like there's too many limits on life these days. You know, it kind of breaks your stride or whatever, you know? Like it keeps you from getting somewhere. Like how many people, you know, like it's a competition, so how many people are going to get to the top of the hill, you know? And it shouldn't be like that. Like if we were to work together, everyone could do what they want. Like there wouldn't be a lot of limits.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of steps people need to go through to just realize even something so simple. But what about alchemy? What about being an alchemist, turning nothing into something? Which I know plenty of people that have done that. I've done that. You do that. Yes.
Every negative should be a positive. There should be, you know, an opposite to everything. And it's all which side you want to look at or see. Even all the things that you fail at, they teach you something so you don't fail again and stuff. So it's all good for us is the point.
Another thing I wanted to bring up too, because we've done so much radio, Tony. Voice signatures. Do you know much about voice signatures? There was a lady, actually, it was a guest, and I cannot remember her name for the life of me. And she used to actually analyze people's voices. And she'd run it through some sort of interface, and there'd be an analysis of the person from their voice signature.
That's interesting.
What was her name? Was it Sherry Edwards? I think it was Sherry Edwards. Maybe that was doing that. Her name just came to me.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, she had a program, and she was able to run your voice through the program and come up with quite a good guide of who you are.
Did it also analyze your health and tell you what your problems were and stuff?
I can't remember. I think so.
I think somebody I heard did do something like that. Like, I don't know if it was voice analysis. I think it must have been like vibrations or something through a computer program.
They say that the eyes are the windows to the soul, which I wouldn't disagree with, but I think the voice as well is a window to the soul. When you hear someone's tone of voice, think about how much, well, you know, singing, even just singing and music is such a big part of most people's life. It's such a big part of being human is music and voice. So I think we underestimate a little bit of the voice and how when you're hearing someone's voice, you should be analysing their tones as much as their behaviour, or not just what they say. It's, well, also obviously what they say, but I think it's something people might want to start really listening when people speak.
I totally agree, and I think every voice is different. It's just like fingerprints, and you know, you remember somebody from, you know, in your past and things, and when you hear them again, you can tell that that's who they are. You know?
Isn't it amazing? Like 7
yes,
people with different voices. But could you imagine, there's also, you know, you've got doppelgangers. People say, gee, I met your double. They look just like you. That happens with voices sometimes too. You meet someone saying, gee, you sound exactly like someone. But even still, you could say exactly, but even still, there's still that minor. Yeah, you sound a lot alike, but there's still that little difference. It's phenomenal.
Yes, like they're all different, you know, just like faces or fingerprints or, you know, everything that we do is different because that's what makes it interesting is that we're all unique. You know, like you've learned things from everyone that you've ever met and what you saw was possible, but you've seen things different than anyone else did. You know, so you make up your mind to what you found here. You know, and I think the issue here is it what you found or is it what you were told? You know, is it what you came up with or was it what somebody told you to see? And I think there's a big problem there. You know, like I don't think life should be secondhand. I think it should be what you believe in or what you want it to be. Like to make it your life.
Well, that's a difficult one with all the social engineering, which I've done so many shows on social engineering. And if anyone doesn't know what social engineering means, it means programming people according to their archetypes, and it's how can I put this? It's not that I'm scratchy on this topic. It's just such a deep topic. But put very simply, is programming. They call it programs for a reason, and you end up adopting a narrative or belief system that might not actually be your own. I used to love TV. I used to watch so much TV, but who I was in the past, I can't even recognize her anymore. I haven't watched TV in over 10 years. But I wasn't myself. I definitely wasn't myself. I was just someone who was triggered all the time. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that word, trigger. You just go out, you get triggered, you get anxiety, you got depression, you hear something, you get triggered, someone's triggered, you get triggered everywhere you go. And that's a really good indication you need to change. If you're getting triggered a lot when you're with certain people, or you hear certain things, or you see something, you get triggered because from a heartbreak, someone that hurt you, and you're constantly triggered, I'm telling you that's the biggest red flag. You need to do some serious work on yourself. Because who wants to live a life, and a lot of people do. We have an extraordinary problem in Australia with mental illness. It's huge here. I'm sure it is in the same US and a lot of Western countries. How mental illness is pandemic. It's everywhere. I barely meet anyone these days that don't tell me that they're on some sort of medication for some mental illness that they've got. And mental illness is such a heavy term. I wish there was another term.
Well, what it is you're being told what life is. So now you're being confused. Now you're wondering what's true. Now you're wondering who you are. You're putting all these things together, and you're fighting yourself for what is reality, And reality is not mental issues, but mental issues could be made up from...
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I would not disagree with that, Tony, but people need to realize the source of it as well. So you understand
absolutely.
The source. I know the source, but unless I have real faith and say, look, I've got some serious questions, I want my questions answered, and I want to be okay. I don't want to be triggered, and I don't want to be confused anymore. As soon as people start being very real with themselves and asking the big questions, the real questions that you should be asking, not what is one of these celebrities going to wear today, not those kinds of questions, but the real questions that pertain to you and your life. Once people start taking real responsibility, then the confusion, the fog will dissipate. But this is where this juggling of whose fault is it? Is it their fault, or is it the programming's fault? Is it the government's fault? Is it this is where it gets...
It's our
people
fault.
Just stop, that's right, stop passing blame and really taking a very good look at ourselves.
Excuses or complaining are excuses, like they're ways around doing something about it. That's all.
Yeah. And when you're very confused, it's very hard to do, and then we're both agreeing where the source of confusion comes from.
It comes from so many voices in your head.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like when I was a kid,
if it's not your voice, or if your voice doesn't have as much sound as the rest of them, you're crazy. And
I'll give an example.
It's not a bad thing. It's something you need to sort out. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll give an example of traumatizing through programming. As a child, again, I used to watch so much TV. When we finally got a colour TV because we were so poor, I was like over the moon. I was so happy. I was obsessed, and I would have been about 11 or 12 when we got this colour TV. And that's not to say colour TVs just came out. They'd been around for years. It's just we could never afford one. We always just had a little black and white TV because we couldn't afford a colour TV. And I remember being so excited about this TV, and I'd be watching TV and there'd be an ad for Touched by an Angel. Remember that show, Touched by an Angel?
Yeah, definitely.
And then that'd be an ad because Touched by an Angel is going to be on at 11 o'clock. And then next to that, there'd be an ad of The Exorcist. It's going to be on at, at 1 o'clock.
Just to balance it out a little.
No, there's no balance there. There's absolutely zero. Yeah. So this triggers me. That, just remembering, as a child, that's traumatizing, and that's very confusing. As an adult, I can see that, and I can discern that. and I can say, I know what you're doing there. And actually, I don't even want to acquiesce to this, so I'm going to switch you off. But as a child, I didn't understand. And that was actually part of how I was slowly becoming a little bit more depressed. I actually realized where the source of my depression was coming from. And I don't know if anyone else has thought about this, but you might want to consider where your anxiety is coming from, your depression, your confusion. It could be from that screen. I can't speak for you. Hold on, Tony. I can't speak for you, but I know for myself, as I was growing and becoming a young woman, I was very confused about everything, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Now I can. So, but what did you want to say?
I'm kind of forgetting now. Go ahead, though.
Yeah, just, I suppose I wanted to zoom in on what you're talking about, where the confusion comes from. Like, I can give a bunch of examples, and I'm sure we've all experienced it. But now, we're not children anymore, we're adults, and another thing I'm finding is adults are never really growing up. We're never really maturing. And I can blame, as a child, I can blame things. As adults, we can no longer be in that victim state of mind, which I see a lot of adults still in a victim state of mind, in this victim consciousness.
Well, it's interesting if other people have an influence on us. It's really how much we're allowing that. So it's really our fault anyway. It's not that you're a victim. It's how you take being a victim. You know, because if somebody's tickling you and you don't go react to it, then it's kind of useless to tickle you. You know. So, like, if they're getting a reaction, they enjoy the pain that they're causing and stuff like that.
Well, television programs are actually very, very sophisticated. They're not randomly placed there, nor is radio by that.
Oh, I totally
When I say
agree.
radio, I'm talking about mainstream radio. Everything's very scripted. Not only is it very scripted, the music they play is also very scripted. I'm talking about not the underground radio stations, I'm talking about mainstream. And you'll find no matter where you turn on a radio and what station on a mainstream radio, you're going to get the repetition of the same news. And when I say news, it's quote unquote very loose news. I was working in a salon some up until some weeks ago, and they'd have the radio on, which I don't hear. And I was just I couldn't believe how shallow the freaking news was. Okay. They were talking about how Shapes, which is a biscuit, a savory biscuit we have here in Australia, have changed their fucking recipe. And that was actually that was breaking news. Shapes have changed their fucking recipe. And I just, and even that world of mainstream is not even my world anymore, because I'm not part of that. Again, I don't watch TV. Our TV's not plugged into an antenna. I like the syncretist way of life. I like to get my information by how I choose to grab it, as opposed to it just being programmed and thrown at me constantly in the repetition. I like to take that power back in my hands, and this is what everyone can do. And you select. Do you know how powerful that is when you select what you want, not being constantly told what to believe? Now, Tony, we could say, hold on, just one more thing. We live in a time where you still have the freedom to do that. If people want to squander that personal power and just not take that kind of responsibility, then I have no compassion for that. We live in such a beautiful time where you can get knowledge from anywhere the hell you want. Imagine being in a gulag or in a prison where you don't have access to knowledge. We're not living in a prison like that. We have access. Anything outside of that is willful ignorance, which I'm cool with. People want to be willfully ignorant. That's fine. When it starts affecting our politics because people are too stupid to stand up for what's wrong, that's when it starts to become a problem. When people lack the information to make conscious decisions for their life, for their families, and I think we're entering that stage where they're almost waiting for people to get, because there is a lot of idiocracy, let's face it. There's a lot of people that just, whether the word's asleep or they're just, but my point is we've got so much access to information that we really have no excuse to be stupid in this day and age, or ignorant for that matter.
Well, I think it's more like you don't know what's next and you wonder, and the overwhelming, like, worry of something wrong going next, you know? Like, I think people are being programmed, you know, to be hopeless and things. I don't like the word hope either, but it's like, it's not true. Anything that you're being programmed to is not the truth. Because life isn't what is just, you know, everybody's telling you it is. Life is what you can see. You know, like you're always seeing there has to be something more than what you've been taught in school and stuff. You know, like there's something better than all of this like pain and suffering that everybody keeps, you know, discussing. And these are all just excuses for what, you know, we really could have here, because if we had it easy, we wouldn't have anything to complain about, you know, so, you know, because we don't have it easy, because we are being controlled, that's all we're doing is complaining.
Yeah, definitely. I used to be one of those people that had to have something to complain about, which is part of my victim consciousness in the past. And I'm still seeing that people still need stuff to complain about. I'm the opposite now. You know, everything's about gratitude. You hear that and you think, oh gee, that's such a cliche about having gratitude. And I realize I used to even think it was such a stupid cliche. And now I totally get what that means. Like, if you're replacing all the things that you wish your life was in that victim state of mind, and just actually stop and be grateful for what the hell you have got. And if you're an educated person, you'll be able to actually cross-reference and realize that you've got a hell of a lot more than a lot of people in this world. And give yourself a moment and actually start practicing that thought of being grateful for what you do have. Believe me, something opens up, the magic really starts to happen where you brought more. You brought more of what you already are in terms of the gratitude. You brought even more blessings.
I think it's if you're ready for them, if you can really do something with that energy, it comes to you. But if you're gonna, you know, like not be capable of something next, you're not gonna see the great things that you could be. You know, you have to be ready for the next thing is the point. You have to be open. You have to let things flow somewhat. It's like this strange thing about life when you're making it up, when you're making plans, life happens to you and you realize it's not what you planned. You know, so really life is going on and it's a flow. And if you can feel the flow and actually get into the flow, things get into, you know, like sync and everything happens easier and you can do so much more and you're so much more capable because you're not putting limits on anything that you can do.
You know, if I had heard someone say what you said just now, say 15 years ago, I'd be like, I really want to believe what he just said. That's just absolute rubbish. I'd really like to believe that that's true, but that's rubbish. And I can say, what you just said is exactly through my journeys the reality I've come to, and that's absolutely 100% true.
Well, what the confusion is somebody is trying to keep us from what's possible because there's so much more possible. Everybody knows that's obvious by now. Something is actually confusing us and slowing us down. And I don't mean to be, you know, complaining about something, but something is just a test, you know. It's more like if you can say, look, I can get through this and I can do whatever I want, you know, then you pass the test. It's such a simple thing.
And it takes a lot of inner strength to do that. And a lot of people are walking around with no mental, emotional fortitude.
Because
none.
Somebody took all your confidence away from you.
Well, we know that, right? But Tony, someone can't hand you the confidence lollipop either.
No.
So they can, see, this is where this conversation's it's a bit paradoxical, because they can and they can't. Okay? They can't. No one can make you. Yeah, that's right. that's where free will comes in, which is different to true will. True will to me is what you truly want, what you truly will in this life. If you truly want something, you focus on it and integrate your will. Free will, on the other hand, is choosing to feel a certain way. Do I choose to feel this way? This is where I took my power back again and not being such a victim all the time and being triggered. Where you actually say, well, I'm going to just say you're absolute. I'm writing a book actually about the C word, but I'm not going to. Someone said it last night at the radio. I'm like,
I
she
heard
said
that.
it. Oh. But I don't know. It's definitely not a word I want to throw around. But I am writing a book on it. Actually, I'll explain that in a second. And I completely forgot my chain of thought because I just can't forget what happened last. You said it.
Well, it's
Right.
about free will.
Free will. That's right. That's right. That's right. If someone's going to be the C word to you, and you can really and I've grown up with them. I've grown up with sociopaths, narcissists that really couldn't give a shit how you feel or what you want. It's all about them. And I've managed to now disengage, so I can see things in people now quite a lot quicker than me in the past. So the past me would take, because I was so programmed and I lacked the information because I didn't do the work. And I didn't do the work because I was so programmed. Paradox, it's a loop. It loops on itself until you break the cycle. You can choose how you want to feel. So these narcissists used to make me feel awful about myself, absolutely awful. Now a narcissist can try that on me, and I'll laugh and walk away. That's just the adjustment I made.
The funny thing is,
a lot better.
I take their energy instead of them taking mine.
How do you do that?
Well, they're wasting their time trying to change me.
Yeah.
Like, once you know better, you don't waste your energy on people anymore, Like, people go around and they actually steal each other's energy. When you're picking on somebody, you knock them down a bit and you get a little bit of their energy out of it, We don't realize that the world works on energy. We don't realize that we affect each other that way. But it can be good or bad energy. Like, I can make you feel good too. And in a way you give up some of your energy when you're making somebody feel better or, healing someone or something. But we're supposed to actually go out and collect our energy back, like walking in bare feet on the ground and absorbing energy from the sun. But we've been so out of the real world that we don't realize how things work anymore. Like, everything works for us, but, we're actually the ones working against ourselves.
Yeah,
And blaming it on everyone.
Well, just quick, I just want to say that's the idea of what I'm doing here with the podcast. So if I'm able to remind people how they've got a lot of power in their hands and they don't have to harm anybody, because I'm definitely about harm no one, and I mean harm no one psychologically as well, and abuse nobody. If that's the work that I want to be part of, just remind people, or that there's just so much energy around that competing or being abusive to others is really not necessary. Another paradox about people who are abusive, they tend to not want to get help. They don't want help. They don't.
No, they want more people like them so they can justify why they're like that.
Yeah.
But, like, whittling people down is not as powerful as making people better and stronger. Like, it's so much easier to get more energy of good than it is, like, the negative that people are stealing.
Yeah. In other words, you have to understand that there is actually an incentive.
Yes.
But people make, and for myself too, like I was saying before, I'm not completely altruistic. I don't do things just for others. There's something I'm innately getting out of what it is I do. So when I pass on energy to someone, or I help heal someone, or I just help someone in some way, I do get a lot out of that.
You feel good.
It does increase my energy.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an incentive to doing the right thing and harming no one. I just want to mention this book that I've been writing, and I'm going to use the C word now to illustrate the book. And the reason why I'm not going to throw it around, I'll tell you that in a moment, but how to deal with the cunt in your life. And basically I'm using the C word as a replacement for narcissists and sociopaths. And I've got to say, they're not excuses, because Tony, I know you've used that argument, these terms are just excuses for behaviour. That's not the argument here. They're just silly, because all we've got is words. I'm just using words to describe. Anyway, so I'm using that word, which is a very popular word in Australia, by the way, to describe people whose behaviour is either their behaviour is very congruent with harming others, or stepping on heads to get ahead. And we've all known people like that. So I'm writing this book called How to Deal with Cunt in Your Life. There's a few titles I'm playing with. And I'm using a very abrasive language to get a point across. And it's funny, because if I share a meme with that word in it, some people are quite offended, and I'll realise people are going to get offended by that word. And someone actually said to me, "Do you really like using that word, don't you?" And I'm actually, no, I don't. And my retaliation was, if there were no cunts in the world, I wouldn't have to use this word. That was my answer. That was my rebuttal. But the book is basically dealing with, there are a lot of people that don't treat people badly. They just don't. They're actually genuinely good people, and they wouldn't even dream of treating someone badly. There are a lot of us like that.
I think most of us are like that.
Well, I think you're right. But there are a lot of people that aren't like that, and they will just use and abuse, and they can pretend they're something and they're not until they can trap someone. And basically I want to use the book as almost like red flags that you see with people. So instead of saying the red flags of the narcissist, it's the red flags of the cunt. That's really just the change of language I'm using. And it's a little bit satirical as well. So people that might not want to read about the narcissist or the psychopath but would relate more to that word is why I'm using that word. I'm trying to get a bigger audience. And really it is about identifying them and getting rid of them quickly, so they're not your triggers, so that you don't end up traumatized because you've had this 5-year experience with a cunt, or with a narcissist, or with a psychopath in your life. You know, people that are cold-blooded users that will lie, and they will lie, and they can actually ruin reputations, they can absolutely ruin people, and they harm others. And I think a lot more people and I had this conversation with someone the other day, someone who was a very gentle soul, who'd been very hurt by narcissists in their life, and they've basically hidden under a rock. They've gone and they're hidden away from the world because they're very, I don't know, afraid. I don't want to speak for them. But I said to them, I just had an epiphany, because it's people like us that need to be out, not go and hiding because we've been hurt so much. We're the ones that should be speaking up, standing up, being very, very strong now, especially. Not going and hiding because we're so afraid, so many people have hurt me in my life, I'm just not even going to engage with people anymore. And I tell you, I see a lot of that too, Tony.
It's being tired, because a lot of people pick on the nice person because the nice person shows the bad person how bad they are.
Yes, I know. And I'm tired too, because it happened to me. Okay, I was relieved from a job I really liked because I had one of those bosses.
Right.
Okay, that was embarrassed me in front of people, was very, very rude to me in front of people. Yeah, I'd go to work and I'd do my job. It was very good. I was getting tips. I'd get great feedback. But this boss decided, well, she's over me and she's on top of me and she can treat me any way she wants. Okay? And this is, and it was really bad. The abuse was really, really bad. But I would never treat someone like that, you see.
Right.
But instead of walking away and feeling sorry for myself and feeling like a victim again, because I can't tell you the amount of times this shit has happened to me, I knew how to turn it around. I've got I've got knowledge now to actually not be triggered by situations like that and realise, actually, I don't want to be in this situation. I'm out of here.
Well, you turn those into a positive, where the people around you actually see who's doing what.
That's right, but I had to change.
Yes.
I realised, again, I'm not going to be living in a world where everyone's going to be giving me friggin' happiness lollipops.
Well, yeah, and you should.
But I'm just saying.
No, you should walk away from people that are a waste of your time. You can't just sit there and fight. That's what they want. These people that are bullies, they want you to be a bully too. They want to get you to fight so that they can say everybody fights in this world. And the truth is, if you don't fight with them, if you don't fight with anyone, then these people fail because they don't have anybody to talk into it anymore.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I've had bosses before, female bosses, that have done enormous mistakes, like printed out, say, 500 sheets of something by accidentally pushing the print button, and would have the audacity to come in my office because they were above me and say, put the big ream of prints on my desk and say, what you do this for? I mean, that's the level of gaslighting abuse that's out there. Now, the thought of me doing that to someone else, I couldn't even dream of doing that to someone else. So what I'm saying too is there are a lot of gentle people out there that don't want to hurt anyone. They actually, but they're so broken because they've been hurt so many times, and they're actually the people I want to speak to. That you don't have to go hide. I've been there. I've been there, and I've come out not only fighting, but I've still got this gentle soul. I haven't been broken. I'd like to speak to people like that so they realise they don't have to go hide. They don't have to be in deep depression and afraid of life because of the magnitude of nastiness that's out there. That we actually need you right now. We need you to come out into the light, and we need more strong but gentle people.
I agree. And I think that's what the Bible verse saying, the meek will inherit the earth means. And what it means is the people that know how it feels to hurt someone would never hurt anyone. They don't want to see anybody feel like they did when they were going through that by people,
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mention that too, Tony, because I watched a documentary the other day on the tapes of Lady Diana. Now, this woman was so abused, and she admits her role in it as well. But this is by her own voice, okay, on a tape, that her husband took books to the bed, to the marriage bed when they got married that night, with a photo of his lover next to the bed. And here she is wanting to make love to her husband. And he's got a picture of his lover next to the bed and books. He didn't even want to speak to her. And then he'd make jokes about she was putting on a bit of weight. So she was bulimic. No one would listen to her. She was abused by him, ignored, and also the in-laws, the rest of the royalty. It was really, really bad for her. The reason why Diana became such a humanist and started travelling the world and showed so much compassion, which is why everyone knows Princess Diana, this woman Diana, is because she was so deeply hurt, profoundly hurt. She had so much compassion from it. So in a way, it kind of happened it was a blessing that she was so abused because she couldn't handle seeing abuse. That's why she became such a humanist. She couldn't stand people being hurt. That's how much so that's basically echoing what you're saying, that sometimes when people are so hurt, they have so much compassion for others who are hurting.
Yes, and it also says there's a reason for everything, and what you've seen in life makes what's possible next. And I think the world is going through what it is right now because that's what it takes for us to change it into something nice. We're definitely, obviously, not treating each other nice enough, and we're all in a bit of pain and suffering right now. But yet, if we didn't spend all our time on the stuff that wastes our time, we could be doing everything, and it would be a lot less the cost of life, to actually enjoy life. but we're not helping each other. So, like it takes this kind of a negative cycle for us to get a really positive cycle. So in my belief, I think what's coming next is worth whatever we're going through right now. And
Yeah.
I think that's what it takes. It really takes people seeing how bad it can get to, see the value of changing it.
Yeah, well, it starts with us because just really gaining that power back and being the hero of your own life, which I've spoken about a lot, and about being the hero of your own life.
I agree. I don't think you want to be showing up like to your maker and saying, somebody else told me that's what it was, so that's why I did what I did.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's up to us. And we really have something special here. Like, we actually complain so that we don't see what is possible.
Yeah, and life is very special. And I never used to see it this way. That's why I think I'm a good voice for these kinds of discussions and topics and conversations, because I know what's hard. And I was doing it to myself. And that's not to say my life's perfect now and everything's fantastic. It's pretty good, and I'll see it the way I want to see it. And if there is something wrong with it, I am trying to fix it. But I'm a really good candidate for these topics because I was the biggest victim I knew. Oh my gosh, was I a victim?
No,
Hell.
I agree. I mean,
do you know how embarrassing it is to admit that too, Tony? Just side note, how hard it is to admit that out loud.
Well, I think if you can admit it, then you're past it,
Mm-hmm.
Like, know why it went the way it did to get to where you're at. And I think a lot of people are trying to face things, but they're trying to find a way to do it without failing, Like, a lot of people are wondering how capable they are when really there's nothing that can stop us when we actually know the truth.
Yeah, and another one that really really affects me is when I see people heartbroken by the opposite sex. And I've seen this theme actually for many years now, of when someone gets heartbroken and they suddenly hate the opposite sex, or they won't say they hate the opposite sex, but you can see that they've got a real fear of the opposite sex, and I'm seeing men do it and I'm seeing women do it, and they're just so put off love. I mean, they joke about it. There's many jokes about marriage, about love, about being with someone. I mean, and there is a lot of TV shows also to underpin how ridiculous it is to love someone, right?
Yes.
And that's it's another theme we've all seen since children in movies and TV shows and etc. Somehow we've internalized it, and it's become the narrative of many people. Is that a coincidence?
No.
That we happen to see it on TV and movies all the time. Now we're living this?
No, it's a program. It really is.
It is a program. So I want to address as well people who have been heartbroken. And, again, I know of some stories of people that have been really genuinely done over by a narcissist, right? But instead of going to hiding away and go, I'm never doing that again, you've got to realise it's a big world out there. But if you're in your small-minded victimness, all you're going to see is the same shit all the time until you figure it out. And I'm sorry, there's a truth bomb right now.
Well, see, what you're talking about is don't give up, get better at what you do. Like, you failed at something, which is to teach you that you could do better. It's like you weren't ready for what was possible or something,
Yeah, so in other words, you don't need to be afraid it's going to happen to you again if you do the work on yourself and you see the warning signs first before you're getting involved with somebody. Sometimes people say, there weren't any warning signs. Okay, well, that's fair enough. Some people also argue that, okay, so they didn't see the warning signs, or they're just blind to it. Well, you think about it. If you're admitting you're blind to it, then you need to wake up because your eyes are closed. And there are a lot of really beautiful people in this world too. Maybe not perfect, but to think that everyone you're going to meet is a narcissist now, I don't trust anyone because everyone's a narcissist, or evildoers, and they're going to hurt me, is really it sounds very real to yourself, and you've almost convinced yourself it's true, but it's a lie. It's not true.
No, and what it is our training. You know, like, we've been broken just like horses are broken to be ridden. You know, because they train you in these schools and stuff to pass tests, but then you can't do anything without the teacher and stuff.
Well, that's okay. I was one of the horses that were broken, but I fixed it. This is why I want to do this, because I want people to realise that this isn't just, it's not an impossible undergoing to heal and actually have a better life. And a lot of people are actually saying it is impossible.
Well, I think it's the easiest thing to do is get your life back, because when you don't have your own life, you're not really living, and you're wasting a lot of time because you're not getting the value out of life or to the things that you actually are capable of doing. You know, so you're putting all of these things in your way instead of just solving the things that are in your way. They're only in our way because that's what we were taught. Like, you know, like, life, it's like, I don't know how to put it real easy. It's like Alice in Wonderland. And you're in Alice in Wonderland. Somebody made up everything that you see. Somebody told you this is what it is and this is how it works, and now that's your definition. But you didn't figure it out for yourself. You didn't see what you could do with yourself, you know, do what you want and stuff. You're being told that this is all you're capable of, you know. Like, they say stupid things like, why don't you do something better with your life? Anybody that tells you to do something, they're actually defeating you by, you know, giving you a positive, and then, you know, it's like this thing where they're challenging you to be something, which makes you do something that you're being told to do. And you defeat yourself because you don't want to do it for someone else. You want to challenge yourself. You want to know that you're capable of something. It's not to prove anything to anyone else, because you can't, but you can prove it to yourself that you can do all these things that you want to do. You know? But it's not about other people. Like, we're not here to impress other people. We're not here to figure out what other people think and stuff like that. We're here to be responsible for what we can do with this life. You know? And it's not a follow the leader thing. Like, we don't get our real life out of other people's lives. We make up our own. You know, you want it to be special. You want to be the difference in the world, something new. Something that adds to the world.
Yeah, well, I'm putting out a call out to all the people that have been hurt by really nasty individuals to come out from under your rock, where I know a lot of you are residing because you're afraid, and there is really nothing to be afraid of. You come back with more knowledge, and you don't have to come. Listen, another side of this coin too, that really good intentioned people end up so embittered by what has been done to them that they go on and do it to others.
Yes.
And that was a line, a crossroad I also got to. I think everyone that's been hurt, gentle, good people that have been, hurt by, and that's not to say I haven't hurt other people. I'm sure I have. I'm really sure I have hurt people, but it certainly would have been unintentional, or if it was pretty bad, I'd apologise. Like, I do remember hurting an ex-boyfriend, for instance, you know. But people that are good intentioned people wouldn't just lie and walk on heads, step on heads to get what they want. I can't remember where I was with that. I just got a total blank. But about hurting others. Look, just gentle people that have been hurt to come out. We need you now more than ever. We need good people out, because what happens is all the good ones go hide under their rock. What's going to be left out there?
I think you make a good point. But all these, like the meek, they don't see how to fight the strong, but they don't realize that there's more meek in the world than there are strong,
Yeah, but this is the thing, don't confuse being a person with fortitude and standing up for yourself sorry, that's strong, that's strength.
I totally agree.
That's right.
Somebody that does the right thing. Yes.
Yeah, crossroads. Someone that does the right thing is the strong person.
Yeah.
People who bully and push people around, I don't know why people are under some illusion that these people should be feared and respected. They shouldn't be feared and they shouldn't be respected. You should turn your cheek on them and walk away, and absolutely do not let them hurt you, and walk the hell away. But you have to have enough self-love to do that. So I can do that now because I've got self-love. I've brought this up many times too, how we live in a culture of a lot of self-loathing. People really don't like themselves. So what happens is they find themselves in situations in life where it's just a constant reminder of how much they hate themselves by the people they meet, their experiences, and it's just more reminder. That's why people need to do the work. It's really important to do the work. If you don't need to do anything, you don't need to listen to anything I say. But there are ways of having a better life, and if people want better, there are better ways. There really, truly are.
Is it as simple as, like, follow the leader? You start to get depressed because you can't be the leader and you're tired of being the follower? Is it like really that we're all equal and nobody should be a leader and nobody should have that power over someone else to demand respect and demand, patronage and that kind of crap?
If we lived in a moral society, we wouldn't have to worry about that. But Tony, there are people walking around who are very immoral and do hurt others. Leader or no leader. But the truth is, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just saying how some people take power over other people. Yeah. Where we're really all equal, we're all the same. We shouldn't let anybody have power over us.
Yeah, we're saying we're all equal.
People don't get that.
It's another paradox. I don't think we're quite there yet. Okay. Because people don't believe they're better, and they don't believe they're equal, so we're not equal. But we are equal. Another paradox.
Yes.
I don't think in those terms. Like if I'm at a place of employment and I've got a boss, I show much respect for my boss, but I also show the same amount of respect for everyone I deal with. Everybody. I will treat a king the same as I will treat a pauper. Unless that king wants to fuck with me or that pauper wants to fuck with me, then I'm a little bit different. But as far as how I personally am with people, is I do see them all the same until they show me different. So I get what you're saying, and I do that. I do that. Others might do it, might not do it. It doesn't give me any brownie points for doing that. It just means my experience is a lot richer because I do see the value and how much I learn by, just say I see a pauper or a beggar or a situation where, I'm not going near that, which most of the time, look, I wouldn't go near that. But I could just stop for a moment and give a couple of dollars and be told something that is of value to me that day. That's how I see things. This is going back to what you say about learning something every day. If I limit myself to following just the leader and just looking up, actually it's not even looking up, I limit myself to what I can learn.
Yes. And that's the trick. That's what they would like.
Yeah. Learning to me, personally, as a human being, is one of the joys of actually living.
I think that's what makes it living. If you're not learning something new every day, you're kind of in hell in a way because you already know everything else. It's like watching a bad movie over and over again.
Well, it's kind of like the movie Groundhog Day, and so many people make reference to that movie.
Yes.
So, and another paradox about that belief, if you believe it so much, I'm in Groundhog Day, that's your narrative, and it's always going to be a narrative until you change your narrative. It's incredible how it works. Whatever programming you've undergone, it's just a black magic stage trick. It's just a trick. It's a mind trick.
Well, it shows that somebody knows better, that they do know how it works here, and they know if they can get you to feel like you're less than someone else, then you're under control.
Yeah, well, you and I can actually point out all the magic tricks they do use on us. There's a list. We'll fill a book with the tricks they use.
Yes, they'll try anything to confuse you.
And you know what I find really fascinating is not just what happens that trickles from the top. I like the social aspect of how things work, how people affect each other on the ground level, and how it does trickle from the top, from the programming, but how we treat each other, which is really very complex, because I can't make someone treat me better.
Well, when you realize the truth about life, everybody's equal in a way that they all have a value to share with each other. You know, like everybody that you meet, you learn from. You know, like
which is what I do, and what you do.
Yes. And you find out that, you know, like the ones that you would have passed up because of your belief system are actually the ones with the most information for you. You know, so all of these things that we do to each other are actually hurting ourselves. We're you know, limiting our possibilities here if we don't see the value of everyone.
You're actually limiting your creativity, because I think speaking to different people, learning from different people, even if it's something you didn't want to, whatever it is, it's almost like living a creative life. I don't think just putting a brush to a canvas is a creative life. I think seeing life like an art form, like this, it's an art, the art of living life.
Yes.
All of life is an art.
Yes, and art is artificial, it's made up, it's what we actually create, you know, like it's something new in the world. But, you know, like, we're actually, like, if we were to fix more people and get this right, we could do so much more. So instead of picking on each other, we should be doing as much as we can with each other so that we can get to the next thing that is possible. You know? Like, fighting with each other just wastes our time. Like, if you looked at how much time we waste compared to what we could do with that time, you know? Like, we could do anything.
But you saying that is a very rational thing to say. That's very rational. If you were to say that to a narcissist, for instance, or a CUNT, okay, they wouldn't scratch their head and go, gee, that makes a lot of sense. Oh, I'm going to start probably treating people a little bit better. Well, it would absolutely make zero sense.
I don't expect to get a reaction from a lot of people. What I think is that the ones that can see the value of something will find it. And it doesn't matter when somebody finds the value of something.
That's why all the gentle people out there who have been hurt, really hurt by bad people, come out. Don't stay under the rock. We need you out here, not hiding away.
Well, don't let other people waste your time, you know, and keep you from what's possible. Like, that's kind of what the game is to keep us confused and to take our life away by giving us things that kind of waste our time and never give us what we're capable of. You know, because if we were capable, everything would be easy and we wouldn't have a hard world.
Yeah, it's funny because I used to complain so much about everything when I was, back in the day when I was a victim. I posted this video about a month ago. Are you there, Tony?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I thought it hung up. About a month ago, I was talking on the camera, and I was speaking about this thing I want to start called the True Will Movement. And I was saying about having the perfect life. I happen to be someone who thinks it's possible. Call me crazy. But I like the idea of walking into my home and creating a beautiful environment in my home. Nice food, good conversation, fun, giving each other space, the people that you live with. You give them enough respect to give them space to do what they got to do. You go on your creative pursuits and do what you need to do. Come together, love one another, have fun. Why is that so difficult for people? You see, now that I know this, I'm able to create this. And if people want to come with me, come with me. If you don't, then we can't play. I can't hang out in the sandpit with you because if you're going to try to control me or not give me space, let me do what I need to do, I'm not able to do it. But my point is, I did this video I was talking about, and I watched it, and I'm thinking, did I just say that? I'm like, well, yeah, I did. I actually think we can have a perfect life. But this is where true will comes in. What's the true will? If you really ask yourself, well, you ask yourself some questions. I actually want to get through this life by stepping on heads and treating people like absolute shit. Is that the way you want to use your true will?
Well, is that going to let you feel good about yourself when you get somewhere? You know, so, you know, like somebody could go out and start a new place and everybody could come there and it would be like free. Everybody could just share, you know, and everybody could see what's possible. But what's going on is something is keeping us from showing what's possible in this world. You know, and that way there's this control mechanism where if, you know, nobody can see what's possible, then we don't get to what's possible.
Yeah, well, it's not no one can see what's possible. There are actually people walking out there that can see what's possible.
Yeah, I didn't
and I'm
mean
actually
it incomplete. Yes.
Yes, I'm actually encouraging more people to come out.
Yes.
I won't see you as competition. You want to start a podcast, you want to start speaking up. I encourage everyone to be more creative with your life because you'll probably start healing and feeling a little bit better. But
I think what people do is they show other people what's possible too. And when we actually see something that we can do, and most people can do anything that somebody else does.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all how you look at it.
Yeah, Tony, it's like for me, I've begged and borrowed and stolen everything that who and I am is from others. I just tend to look at role models as people that I can learn from. So what do you call it? Like leapfrog, basically, from other people. That's how we're all connected. That's how we all inspire each other. So I inspire, others inspire me. We keep the chain going. Not the opposite.
Growing, yes.
Not the opposite, that we hurt each other, so people have to go hide because they're too afraid to come out and end up with a lot of mental illnesses. You see, that's the other side of the coin, and that's a lot of what I'm saying. I'm saying let's do the opposite. When we come out, we realise that somehow we were part of our victim state and what happened to us. Come out, start being creative, start enjoying this life. That's what we're here for. We're here to enjoy. And disfrutar, in Spanish we say disfrutar, which is a word that's got the word fruit in it. Fruit, disfrutar de la vida. You know, enjoy the fruit of life.
Yes,
you don't have to harm anybody.
Well, actually, that book I have says that we're all unripe fruit and we're learning how to ripen ourselves, you know, to a full life, you know. And really what it means is that we're learning how to see the strength in everyone together. You know, like if we could stop picking on each other and start forgiving each other for everything, if we could see how all of our mistakes are not mistakes, they're just lessons to get to the next level type of thing. If we stop, you know, competing and complaining about each other and forgiving each other, there's nothing we can't do together then. So all of this, like, picking on each other and stuff was taught to us to keep us separated from the possibility that we have.
As soon as I started figuring that out, too, that was a big game changer for me, because I grew up in a divide and conquer family. And once I figured out, the few family I've got left, I'm just going to give them love. I just love bomb them. Tony, I just love bomb them. You should see me. I don't know if they think I'm... And I thought, they're either going to think I'm crazy or they're going to love this. And I'm going to see how much we all just need love, right?
Yes.
And it worked. Like, I love bombing them, and just their body language is different, the way they look at me is different, the way they talk to me is different. And I'm finding they're starting to love bomb me back.
Nice, yes.
I would never have dreamt of that in the past, because as soon as one of them hurt me, I would just go again under my shell. There was just no way. I would lose all confidence. Now, that's not to say that they could hurt me again, but I'll get over it quick, and I'll keep love bombing them until they realise we don't have to hurt each other. Can you see what a good time we're having? Like, we eat together. I take food over. I don't ask for anything in return. I'll order things online, give gifts. I'll do whatever I can. Whatever I can, just to prove and show that this is a better way than if we would treat each other badly, because then we end up with zero. So if I do it this way, we end up with 10 times more. Right. So it's working, and it's been working now for a year, and I'm quite surprised it's lasting this long.
Well, you know, people that complain, they run out of complaints if you don't, I'm at my ex's right now. I really shouldn't say this much, but it's a negative thing. And, you know, the more negatives that I get and the less that I respond to them and just keep going back to a positive, after a while it runs out of negatives, you know, and, it starts to turn around in a way, you know, you get a better conversation eventually, you know.
Yeah.
And I think it takes that. I mean, these negatives, they come at us to see if it can affect us. If it can't affect us, then the person that's putting them out kind of sees there's something better, that, you know, not everybody has to be negative.
Yeah, and also, to underpin that, if I can show people I'm not triggered, they start realizing, oh, she doesn't trigger that easily, or maybe I can be like that.
Right.
And not be so triggered for you know, so with anxiety. This is another big one in Australian society. I'm seeing now that a lot of people are suffering from really bad anxiety, which is something I used to have as well, which I don't even have an inkling of it now, is anxiety. And anxiety is because you've been triggered. Do you want to live the rest of your life where you're going to just be triggered and you feel absolutely no power, no control, and you have zero confidence? That's no way to live. There really is no way to live. I had to change because I just couldn't do it anymore, Tony. I just could not do it anymore.
Well, I think a lot of that is actually what's causing other people to, you know, like when somebody is like living like that and they're not happy, they're the ones that are actually causing the negativity, that are picking on other people to make them miserable too, you know.
Yeah. It's a validation.
Misery loves company.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Thank you. That's the one. Yeah. So we don't really need to. So go ahead.
Yeah, the simple thing is that when that stuff doesn't affect you, you're actually showing someone, or the rest of the people that are watching it, you know, that there's other possibilities, that you don't have to deal with that negative, you know, and you can actually show someone, not in a way that you're teaching them, but in a way that you can share that, you know, anything is possible to just handle these situations. These people shouldn't have that much power over each other. You know?
And this show and my shows definitely aren't going to be about positivity. That's not what this is about. And I'd hate for anyone to be under any illusion that that's what this is going to be about, or any sort of false spiritual diatribe. That's not what this is about.
I'd like it to be about making sense, you know.
Making sense. Yeah. I just want to make sense, and also not just blanket everything with just being positive. That's ridiculous. It's New Age spiritual diatribe. It's a way to almost make people have Stockholm syndrome, because you just let the person treat you like shit. That's all right. No, I'm talking about.
Well, yeah, you don't ignore the situation. You actually change it. Yeah. And you don't put up with things. You actually see that you have a life too. Like, a lot of these problems that people have is by letting someone else have power over you, and then you're not enjoying anything anymore. It makes your life complicated, and then you start complaining, and it becomes a cycle that you can't get out of. But you know, like, really what it is you're supposed to have the same equal life as anyone else, because you have choice too, and nobody's allowed to take the choice away from you. So once you stand up to these people that actually take your choice away, there's like this thing about the whole system around you, like nature. Like, nature is on your side when you're doing the right thing, and you're actually solving the problem that somebody is holding you down. You know, so you have all this potential if you just stand up and and be yourself, you know?
Yeah. And what's the incentive? Like, people hearing this and they go, if there's just so many little things you can do, like, you know that term fake it till you make it, right, Tony?
Sure.
You know there's actually, again, there's a science behind it, that it actually works.
Yes.
So they did these studies that they found that they got these people that didn't have confidence, or they had a life experience that really sucked the confidence out of them. They were trained to actually use body language, for instance, before they go into a job interview, and put their hands on their hips and stand up straight and put their head up. So it was, I wish I knew the proper term, but mirroring a confident action and actually physically embodying that action. And people were actually developing confidence just by pretending, just by changing the position of their body. And the fake it till you make it is actually real.
I agree. And it's not that it's really faking it either. It's just taking on that posture that you can handle what's next. Mm-hmm. You know, like once you realize that it works, you get stronger and stronger.
And you know, I did that when I started being a host at Rev Radio 2012. I did that. I was having a really tough time, and anyone that knows me personally knows I was having a very, very tough time. I had PSD at that stage, post-traumatic stress, like a lot of people that have gone through tough times. See, I know how to avoid tough times now. This is the point. Okay, but anyway. So I very consciously chose to have shows with a good message instead of getting on there and actually just complaining about my situation or coming from that angle, which I didn't. So some people that knew me, they're like, well, you're fake. She's fake. I know what her life's actually like. And I'm like, no, you don't get it. I've got two choices. I can come on live and speak to millions of people and talk about how bad things are.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. And how, because it's bad for me, I'm sure it's really bad for you too. Or I did the fake it till you make it. What I did is I was getting literature, information, conversations I had, everything, putting it all together as a way for me to grow. So I was actually accumulating, having guests on, doing everything I could that I knew was eventually going to help me. Yeah, I knew it was eventually, that's how smart, and I'm not saying I'm super smart, but I was smart enough to figure that out. And guess what? After a couple of years, being on the radio was the best experience I had because I healed. I figured stuff out. It actually worked. So now I can honestly say there's no faking it till I make it. I have made it. And what do I mean by made it? That I've gotten to that point in my life where I can consciously, in the morning, get up in the morning and say how I want to feel today. For me personally, that's I've made it for this time and space. That I can control how I want to feel. That is huge.
That is huge, and it's not what somebody told you it was.
Yeah.
That's like one of the best feelings you can have in life, is that you're in control of it.
Yeah, and I have no desire to harm anybody. On top of it,
there's no need to harm anyone.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing is we were taught that we need to, like fight over scraps or something. And the world is like amazingly resourceful. Like it has way more than all of us could use. And only we could make up some kind of story that we have to fight over things.
No, isn't it so? It's like children. It's like when a child just hasn't figured stuff out yet because they haven't bloomed into maturity. Again,
it's a psychology.
We're like children. We're obviously like so.
Well, somebody knows better. Somebody knows how to treat us like children. And that's what it really is. We're not growing up because somebody isn't giving us the right things to grow with,
Yeah, so, that's all right. And there's maybe that's why more of us need to come out.
Yes, of course, because
So we can inspire each other and we can go, hey, that shit happened to me too. I thought I was the only person. What,
yes,
there's more of us? Yeah, actually there are more of us. And I was a recluse, Tony. I became a recluse. I was a beautiful, beautiful girl in my 20s and early 30s. And I was so afraid of what the world was, how I was getting hurt all the time, that I would just become a recluse. I'd lock myself up for 6 months and write music and didn't even want to go out into all. But lucky for me, I've got to say, although it was a depressing time for me, I was very creative in my reclusiveness. I would write music. It was very dark times. It was a dark night of the soul quite a few times for me, but I did still manage to be creative. And actually, there are times where I've gone through that as well, and I have not had an inkling of creativity in me either. So I've got to be real about that. I haven't always been creative in those dark moments. But we shouldn't have to live in, and they say the best musicians are the ones that are depressed, and that's absolute bullshit.
yeah,
But
totally.
it's a theme that goes around. Even other musos say it to one another. Look, life's very colourful, and we can come from any angle we want. That's the beauty of art and creativity.
You know what?
But
There's a little used word called inspired that you don't hear much.
Yep.
Go ahead. Creativity.
Well, creativity. I tend to stay in the highly inspired zone a lot of the time.
Yes.
And if it's enough, sometimes it's just enough. Like some people saw that just this 2-minute video I posted of myself. That's like people that are posting videos of themselves talking and they got some really important stuff to say. Not rubbish. I mean, important shit. I think it's really powerful. I think someone might just tune in and see something, 10 seconds of that sentence, and a ripple effect starts. That's how powerful this shit is.
That's exactly it. That's really what the future is by us all realizing what our energy can be, instead of what we've been limited to.
Yeah, and you notice I said, Tony, they might have just heard something in that 10 seconds. Obviously, it's something new. Again, what you say about learning something new every day, that learning something new is what's inspiring people. The Groundhog Day is uninspiring. There is no inspiration in Groundhog Day.
Right. And something new is really easy because almost everywhere you look, there's something new. You don't realize how much we're missing because we've been programmed not to see the value of life. Just nature is so amazing everywhere you look. We're definitely distracted from that. But our own nature we're missing too, because we're not real people. Like a real person would be enjoying the feel of breathing and the feel of sunshine and the feel of nature and stuff like that. But, we've created an artificial life that's really taken life away from everyone. And it's slow enough that, well, it might not be slow these days, but it was slow enough to catch us in this trap,
Yeah. But then I'd like to focus on the other side where we can sit and we can talk about how...
Because we all want to live.
Yeah, well, there's great things. Like I mentioned last night, we're on a round table, and someone was mentioning how they used to build cars so much better and talking about planned obsolescence. And it's absolutely true. They don't make things to last, and we can sit and have conversations about it for hours and just complain about it. Or then talk about, and then I brought up, in contrast, how we also live in a time where people give away a lot of stuff for free.
Yes.
I can't tell you the amount of things that we've received for free online, people giving things away. There is the other side of the coin. That's why all this fear porn, it might have its purpose. But there's got to be someone talking solutions, someone fucking speaking like kind of, hey, it seems bad, but life is huge.
Life is what's next. It's not about what we've done so many times over. And what next is like, there's so many other ways to go with this world than there is like what we're programmed to make it into. Like this whole thing of studying one occupation and stuff like that. That's all wrong. We're supposed to be able to do anything we want to do in life. We're not supposed to be all taught to do one thing and, fight over who's better than who at one thing,
Another great thing of being at the radio, I totally agree. Another great thing of being at the radio is you start realizing what your role is, because you start falling into certain positions, especially if you're conscious. If you're not conscious and you're a victim, you fall into the worst positions. But if you're conscious and you're aware of the victim stuff, then you don't fall into those positions anymore. One of the great things about being on the radio was, because I had the opportunity to meet so many people, what I ended up becoming was like the middleman. So what I was doing is I was hooking people up. So there'd be someone who was an expert on something, and I'll say they were, because I met a deprogrammer. They deprogrammed me in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. All the bullshit I was telling myself dissipated in 2 weeks, and then I had to do the work. But he was a deprogrammer. So I was kind of plucking and finding these people that were, and then I'd realize someone else needs this person, so I'd hook them up. Or, and not just that example, different types of hookups as well. So I was connecting and certain people. I've done it on many occasions, and I've hooked up the right people at the right time. So what started happening is my instincts started to tune in really, really good. They've become really finely tuned. I was finding that I was saying the right thing, doing the right thing, and I was just changing. I was ripening, like you were saying before. It was almost like I was coming into my true power, where it wasn't harming anyone. It was like all this knowledge I'm receiving, it's to actually help. I'm actually helping.
Yes. And that's what we're really here for, is to share what we found with other people so that they can find it easier, And
it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to do that, rather than being in competition with people and you lose connections with people because of the competition. There's no fun in that. There's more fun in networking, in going, hey, I've got the right thing and the right person. Do you need them? Yep, I'll hook you up. And then I just let it go. I don't even, there's no ego involved. I just do it, and then I just remove myself, because it's a lot of fun. And I realized I was falling into that role. So I was learning about myself, like, wow, look at the type of woman you've become. This is pretty cool, Helena, because you were at a crossroad at one stage and I was a bit worried about you. Like a lot of us.
We do think about our possibilities a lot. It kind of drives us crazy at times if we don't see a way out and things we can be.
Yeah.
These things are all limits that were put on us. It really is crazy to think that, what's going on here. We actually have the power to do anything, and we're being limited to almost nothing. Like, life is so, complicated instead of simple. And why wouldn't it be simple? Like, we're not that great of a being that, we can just create whatever we need next and stuff. Like, I think life is working for us, and we're actually working against ourselves.
Well, because of the power of belief, and if people's narrative is to believe shit that is not of any value to them, it's just causing them more pain, then they have to realize that what their belief and their narrative, once again, is very faulty, and it needs to be rewired. It needs to be defragged, thrown out, and you got to start again. And I had to do it. I did it. I put my hand up. I did it, and it worked. And not only did I come out of it, it's like I shedded skin. And what I've got now is just, and another myth as well is, when I turned 30, I was so afraid of turning 30. I mean, the fear, and I don't know if other women can relate to this, and I'm sure some guys as well, because there's this underlying message how aging is the worst thing that can happen.
It does really affect you when you think like that.
Oh, it's everywhere. You turn on the TV and you don't want to know. Okay. And then you meet people and they're in that zone too. And I'm not saying that we don't age, but turning 30 was very, very difficult for me. It gave me another depression. And, I'm now early 40s. people think I'm 28 and that I look 20, 28, and I don't get Botox or anything my face. I'll do at-home skin peels and things like that, but I take a lot of vitamins. I look after myself. I used to be a personal trainer, and I don't train as much as I used to. I would like to train again, but my body seems to be okay. I'm getting away with a lot, put it that way. But the fear of aging for me growing up was debilitating. Now, I don't have that fear anymore. It's gone. It's completely gone. And people thinking I'm a lot younger as well, which is something, it kind of freaks me out sometimes. Sometimes I do look at myself and I'm going, shit, I don't even know what age you are, because I compare myself to people my age, and there's a big difference. Big difference. So, I just want to say, like, an innate fear of aging that I had's gone, and other fears that I used to have disappeared. They're gone.
Yes, and I think this whole aging thing, or like a lot of things that we do to ourselves, are like about the energy that we're in. If we are in positive energy, we actually stay younger, and if we're in a negative sense, we're going to get older faster. If we give more, we're going to have more, and if we take more, we're going to get old faster. Because we're like burdening ourselves with all the things that we hold on to, all of our problems and things. Yes.
Fears are, when you talk about programming, you talk about programming fears from when you're a child. How?
Right. Like how those fears actually grow with us and affect our lives. And, they keep us from what's really capable, And the thing is that it's all like set up for this thing to see who can get through it, like who can make it through this maze or whatever that's put in front of us. And it's not supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be a simple world that everything works for you. You think of something and it comes to you. Like the nature actually works for us, and we don't realize that at all. We've been taught that we're against nature in a way, We're always blowing things up and taking things apart instead of like growing and multiplying and putting things together, like the opposite of nature, Like man isn't working with nature like we should be. We're supposed to be like a special part of it that we could have like solved a lot of the problems nature has,
Mm-hmm.
Instead of causing.
About how about we tie this up? So I'm actually going to be having. I've been in communication with quite a few people that I'm going to have as a guest, and I have to first determine if they want to have a handle as opposed to using their real name, etc. So I'm not going to mention any names now, but I'm going to have a beautiful woman on my show. We're going to be talking about indigo children and crystal children. I've got my own take on that, so we're going to have a discussion about that. I've got another mate, actually. His name's Joaquin. I don't think he'll mind that I say his name. He's in New York, and him and I were going to do a show together, something very similar to this some time ago, but he got really busy with work, and I had the intro ready and everything, and we just weren't able to do it, but we're still really good mates, and I'll have him on the show. He actually wants to talk about reincarnation, which is all good too, and so I'm going to have even some of my friends from the radio just shoot breeze and have conversations here, and like I said, people can just have this on in the background while they're cooking or driving or something, and we'll just keep you company for a little while. And so that's the idea of the show. So I'm going to have all sorts of guests. I might even do some monologues sometimes, and Tony's going to produce for me, and sometimes I'll, if I'm somewhere and I've got my little condenser mic recorder, I might just do something from wherever I am. And I will post a couple of videos of me talking and stuff, but there's not going to be a lot of that. But I'll be posting more music. But this is the first show of TIPTOE Radio with Helena Phoenix. And thanks so much, Tony. Why not? So what do you think? Do you feel comfortable? It's a good show.
Yes, and it's very positive, and that's what I like to feel. So I think it's a great start. And it's very energetic, too. Good energy.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Tony. Thanks for being my friend for such a long time.
Oh, come on. Thank you. We're all in this together, you know. And, you know, like I try and keep friends forever. Like I like to see it that way. I don't look for mistakes. I forgive things, you know. And if I forgive things, then I don't have to feel bad about what I think of people, you know.
And
So,
can I just say something? Can I
mhm.
say something? I've known Tony now for some time. I have never, ever in my life met someone as unconditional as you. Like, you actually mean that. Like, if I said that, it'd be a lie. Because I do dislike certain people. Or, not that, I just cut them off. You don't. You'll let them back. I've heard people call you names and they decide that they want to come back in your life and you'll allow them. But it's not because you're a doormat. I realise that the reason you do it is for a very deep reason that it took me a little while to understand. It's not that Tony's a doormat. Tony's trying to teach something. I think that's extraordinary. I can't do it personally. I'm not at that level yet. Maybe I will. Maybe your influence on me will influence me so much. I'll end up being that way. That's why I'm careful who you hang out with. I hang out with you, Tony, because I like the influence that you do have on me.
Thank you. And I think it's a special thing when somebody does think different of you and then they realize the truth about you and they want to get it right, you know, because it actually makes them want to get it more right when they, you know, thought different of you. You know?
That's it. All right, Tony, well, we'll close this show up and I'm going to figure out how to put the intro in and post it up on YouTube. Actually, you know what I didn't do? I didn't date stamp it, and I really want to do that. So this is 2016. We're in June. It's June the 17th here in Melbourne, 2016. So I'll somehow I'll date stamp it at the front, at the beginning somehow. It's really important that people know. I know it sounds funny, but if this was a 2014 broadcast, it'd have a whole different feel to it.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny how that works. But thanks, anyone who's been listening. Tune in, keep coming to this channel because I'm going to be posting up more interviews and more of these podcasts. So thanks for joining us here at TIPTOE Radio.
Thank you. And we should all do what we can, especially for each other.